You have to become a little bit delusional, okay? You have to believe in yourself just past the point of being realistic, because that's where you find the magic and that's where your life begins to change. Hi dolls, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Imani. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. As you can probably tell by the title of this video, we are talking all about manifesting and creating your dream life in 2023. I have created my dream life not by chance, but by strategy. And now I'm going to help you all create your dream life too. Since the new year is here and a lot of people are prioritizing manifesting and goal setting and kind of restructuring what they want their life to look like and to feel like, I felt like now was the perfect time to address this. So I want to talk about a few different categories that will help you create the life that you've always wanted to achieve. The first being simply having no other choice, right? Sometimes you have to get knocked down lower than you've ever been to be able to rise up and stand taller than you ever were before. And I have a quick backstory on that. So I've lived a pretty comfortable and privileged life throughout most of my life, never really wanting for or needing anything, but there was a short time span when I had nothing. I mean, no money, no home, nothing to my name. And while thankfully that was short-lived and life did get back to normal for me, it was in that time span when I had nothing, when something really switched for me. Because I'll be honest, when I was living that very lavish lifestyle, I wasn't really concerned or focused on my goals, at least not seriously. I wasn't really concerned with the future. I was just kind of living in the moment and going with the flow and vibing out. But it was when everything came crashing down around me, it really forced me to look at myself and look at my life and say, Imani, how are you going to pull yourself out of this? So as a young teen being faced with all of this, I said, my life changes today. And I made a very detailed plan detailing exactly what my life was going to look like and how I was going to accomplish it. And so I made a detailed plan. I said, I'm going to become a weeknight evening news anchor. I'm going to move into my dream high-rise apartment. I'm going to do yoga on the weekends. I'm going to go to fancy dinners and rooftop bars. I'm going to go to therapy. I'm going to eat healthier. I'm going to be happy. I'm going to be healthy. I'm going to create this dream life for myself. And I'm so blessed to be able to say I have accomplished every single one of those goals that I laid out in that detailed plan when I was a teenager, and have even accomplished a few more that I didn't even think to begin to dream of. And so while my life as a teen and onwards went back to normal, that hustle mentality, that no other choice mentality really stuck with me then and throughout the rest of my life, because I said, you know, no matter what, I'm going to do whatever it takes to not have to go back to that place. And honestly, it was hard, but if it weren't for that experience, I can't say that I ever would have had that initial push to really create goals for myself and become ambitious in creating a life for myself on my own. So despite the challenges and the hardships, I'm forever grateful for that experience and for that initial push. And look, it might not take you having to lose everything for that initial switch to happen, right? It could just be you getting tired over time, tired of working a dead-end job, tired of not having money left over after paying all of your bills, tired of feeling unfulfilled, you know, whatever it is. But sometimes you have to reach that point, and sometimes you have to reach your lowest point to be able to say enough is enough and do what you need to do consistently to be able to rise up from that. So while I've talked a little bit about where my initial drive came from, now I want to dive more into the actual manifesting that I did to create this life and the strategy that went into making this happen. So the first category that I want to dive into is altering your brain chemistry or a major mindset shift. This one was huge for me, you guys. And while this was happening in little moments throughout my life, there were two major moments when this happened that really changed things for me. and made me want to make this a routine. And it may sound a little bit superficial to you guys, but just trust me, stick with me on this one. So the first experience was going into a designer store on my own as an adult for the first time. Now, I had been in designer stores before with my parents when I was like really young, but I didn't remember too much about it. So when I went for the first time as an adult, it really was kind of like a new experience for me. And mind you, at this point, high school Imani, college Imani is, you know, shopping at Charlotte Rouge and Forever 21 and going to the mall, you know, with my friends on the weekend and, you know, going into those kinds of stores. So this really was like stepping into a new world for me. You know, you're getting free food and champagne as you walk around and shop. You can text with a shopping assistant who can help you with any of your needs and cater to whatever your shopping needs might be. I was really in awe at that point, and it stopped being about the clothes and the shoes and the handbags in the store and really started to be about just the overall experience around the store. And I really started to notice just so many other things around me and that were happening around me. How you were completely catered to by the employees there, how they went out of their way to help you, how clean everything was, how nicely displayed everything was, the type of people that were surrounding me that were shopping in there, the different type of conversations that they were holding. So really at that point, it wasn't even about the bag, the shoes, the clothes, but it was just exposing me to a different environment and different circumstances that really just felt kind of elevated from where I had been. And so that initial experience really made me say to myself in that moment, I'm gonna work really hard and create a life for myself where this can become a routine reality for me. And so while there's absolutely nothing wrong with some of the regular stores in a regular mall, and I still shop at some of those stores from time to time, you do feel a difference going between the two and just how you are treated and how things are handled and just the overall environment. So yeah, that really inspired me to just want to create a change where that could become my reality. The second major mindset shift that happened for me was the very first time that I flew in first class. I don't know if you guys have ever heard Steve Harvey talk about this. He has a video discussing it. So after you finish this video, go find that video if you want, because he talks about it and it's so true. But yeah, that was a huge moment for me. Now I had flown a bunch of times before that moment, but that was the first time that I flew in first class, and just being able to compare and contrast the different experiences flying was a huge, really eye-opening experience for me. I mean, you're getting free drinks and champagne the entire flight, you're getting special upgraded snacks, you have a standalone seat with a window and it's more comfortable, and you've got extra leg room. There's a little bit of networking going on with the other people sitting around you in first class, right? Because these are normally people maybe flying on business. The flight attendants are checking up on you just a little bit more. And so, you know, on top of that, I'm normally a pretty nervous flyer. That was the first time that I had no nerves on a flight, just good vibes. There was a little bit of turbulence, but I was so like gone off the champagne and the good experience that I didn't even notice. And it just felt really nice to have this really elevated, upgraded experience and to just, you know, be able to participate in it and be a part of these different conversations and different lifestyle that I really wasn't aware of before. And so I had a great time on that flight, but the very next time I flew, it was just a regular seat. It wasn't first class. And I remember getting onto the plane, boarding the plane, and walking past all the people in first class and walking to the back of the plane where the seats weren't as comfortable. There wasn't as much leg room. It was a little bit harder to get the flight attendant's attention, and just feeling like it was a little bit of a downgrade. And I just remember that moment and saying to myself, I need to work really hard. I need to go hard on my goals and create a life where first class can become more of a routine reality. And the very next time I flew again, it was back in first class. And again, like just like I was talking about with the designer store, it wasn't even so much about the flight, but just about all the other experiences around me and around that were happening, that were extremely eye-opening for me and that I wanted to continue to be a part of. So this next category that I want to talk about is becoming delusional. This is my favorite category. I am completely delusional and it works for me every single time. You have to become a little bit delusional, okay? You have to believe in yourself just past the point of being realistic, because that's where you find the magic and that's where your life begins to change. So for this category, I want to talk about news because that is my job. So like I mentioned previously in this video, at an early age, I decided I was going to become a weeknight evening news anchor, prime time, okay? Now, did I know anything about journalism at that point? No. Did I know anybody in the journalism world at that point? No. But that was my plan and I was sticking to it and I was going to make it happen. So, you know, of course, I went to college and I took journalism courses and got my journalism degree, but here is where the real delusion came in. So in college, we had to complete internships to get experience in our field. So during my internships, I shadowed news anchors and news reporters who were working in pretty big cities and, mind you, had like 10, 20, 30 years of experience, right? And I remember, you know, shadowing these journalists, and I was, maybe like 19 years old at the time, and I would be watching them, you know, anchor the news and watching them and say, oh, I can do that. That's easy. Put me out there. Throw me out there. I can do it. I can do it too. And matter of fact, they did. They did put me out there, and I recorded a tape and actually used that to get hired in the business and get my foot in the door, and that got me my very first job in news. But, you know, now that I'm older and I have, you know, been working in the business for a few years and have a few TV jobs under my belt, I think back to that moment and think back to 19-year-old Imani, and I laugh because I'm like, girl, that was so delusional. You had no idea what you were doing out there. But that didn't matter. What mattered is that I was confident in myself and I believed in myself, and that caused other people to be confident and believe in me too, and to give me opportunities that I might not have received otherwise. And so, hey, listen, you know, call me delusional if you want to, but it worked, right? People can sense that. People can sense when you're confident in yourself, when you believe in yourself, and that causes them to believe in you. So if there's one thing you can do differently or add into your routine in this new year, it is to be confident, believe in yourself, put that out into the world, and great things will come back to you. And I have continued to be delusional in that way from that time on throughout my entire career. And I think that's a big reason why I've been able to be so successful. I accepted my current job as a weeknight evening news anchor at 26 years old, you guys. That's about 15 to 20 years ahead of schedule. Most weeknight evening news anchors are typically in their 40s. And so, you know, there's never been anything, a single thing in my life that I've wanted to accomplish where I've looked at it and said, Imani, you know what? I think you're aiming too high. I think that dream is a little bit too big. Never, not once. And I think that's why I have been successful. You know, call me delusional, but I truly believe that I can accomplish anything that I put my mind to. And listen, the proof is in the pudding so far, right? So, you know, when you're confident, you accomplish more. And when you accomplish more, you become more confident. And it's just like this cycle that really sets you up for success. So get delusional. Okay, so for this next category, I want to talk about changing your environment. This is so important, you guys. You have to put yourself in the places that you want to be before you get there so that you can arrive. Okay, now play that part back. Make sure you're hearing and receiving that, okay? So for this part, I want to talk about my time moving to and living in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I'll talk a little bit about like love life and dating in this category as well for the folks that are trying to manifest that here in the new year. So prior to moving to Raleigh, I was living and working in Texas. It was a small town in Texas that I moved to start my career, but outside of work, there wasn't really a ton to do in that town. So when I accepted a new job and moved to Raleigh, I was just really excited because it was a much bigger city with so much more going on. It's a capital city. They had tons of fancy restaurants to dine out at. They had tons of nice, swanky rooftop bars, lots of different entertainment venues, but I was most excited about all of the amazing living spaces and living options downtown. And so when I was moving to Raleigh, I knew it was a much bigger city, and I said, okay, now is where I fulfill my dream and my plan of living in my dream big high-rise apartment in the middle of downtown, right? So that's exactly what I did. This new job was paying me about double what I was making at my old job in Texas, so I moved right smack dab in the middle of downtown into the newest, biggest high-rise that they had in the city. Like, we were literally the first group of people to ever live in that building. And talk about how changing your environment can change your life. It was a brand new high-rise apartment complex right smack dab in the middle of all the action on the main street in downtown. I'm talking about sharing the same street with the Capitol building. Like I mentioned, it's a capital city. But yeah, brand new, made completely of glass. I mean, floor to ceiling windows, so you know, you get the nice natural light and you wake up to views of the city, go to bed at night to views of the city. I arguably had the best view in the entire building, okay? But anyways, yeah, it was just a beautiful building. Everyone had like a personal concierge. The staff was always holding different free events for the residents, free healthy cooking classes, financial literacy classes, paint classes, rooftop pool parties. You know, really anything you can think of. There was a lot of young professionals in the building, so it was a lot of networking events, a lot of mixing and mingling. There was always something going on. Free food, free drinks, free appetizers. There was free cleaning services. It just really was like an elevated lifestyle change, lifestyle shift all the way around. And the way the building was set up, we had like our apartment complex was on the top portion of the building, and then underneath that there was like a bank and there was like a bar connected to it. So it was just like really swanky vibes, okay? I'm trying to like set the scene for you guys. But more importantly than just the beautiful building and some of the amenities and perks that came with it that I mentioned, above all else, this building was so great because it has multiple levels of security. And so because of that, you had a certain group of people or certain demographic that would gravitate towards this space and that lived there, right? So you had a lot of news anchors and news reporters that lived in my building. It was a capital city, so there were a lot of politicians that lived in my building, attorneys, doctors, bankers. Like I mentioned, there was a bank in the building, entertainers, just, you know, all the finance bros. So it in and of itself was also a great place, or really a gathering spot for people who might have been looking for something a little bit more private, secluded, or that just didn't have that regular routine public access that a lot of buildings downtown might have. And so because of that, it put me in the company of a lot of quote unquote elevated people who were doing elevated things with their life that in a way I started to mimic through just changing my environment, and also through some of the offerings of this new apartment building I was living in. So I had changed and I developed healthy eating and cooking habits. That's where my love for yoga and working out really developed. I developed new hobbies like painting and expanded on old hobbies that I enjoyed, like reading. And so just by living and existing in this building, it really upgraded and elevated my life and created an entire lifestyle change and mindset shift for me. And you guys know I'm a journalist. I would get tons of story ideas, you guys, just by passing by, you know, my neighbor the politician or my neighbor the finance bro in the elevator. So yeah, it just, again, like, it was a new building and it was pricier, but you cannot put a price on being exposed to that kind of environment and the networking it offers and how it really just upgrades your life. But I kind of want to talk about the dating aspect of this for all of my ladies out there that are manifesting better love connections in the new year. So, and disclaimer, this is no shade to like anyone that I've dated in the past. So while I was living in Texas, I dated a few guys there and it just really didn't work out, girls, okay? So like there were a lot of arguments, like it was just really like unhealthy and toxic. A lot of arguments about immature things, a lot of arguments over money, and just arguments about the different paths that our lives were taking. But when I moved to Raleigh, oh, the dating scene was completely different. I was instantly surrounded by all of these younger, high value, high income men. And listen, I had a blast dating in Raleigh, okay? I mean, it was night and day, totally different dating experience. And actually, I ended up dating very seriously my neighbor in my building in Raleigh. For purposes of this story, let's just call him Neighbor Bay, okay? And ladies, when I tell you dating Neighbor Bay versus some of the guys I dated back in Texas, night and day, completely different experience, okay? And I'll say this, like living in my building in Raleigh, you have to make a certain income to live there. And so a lot of times that means you have a certain lifestyle to go along with that. And I feel like because that was already like, we were already equally yoked in that manner, I guess, before even meeting each other, and we already like got that out of the way, it just made the connection so much easier, and we hit it off instantly. So we had our very first date at the bar that's connected to our building. It was both of our favorite bar. Before even knowing each other, it was both of our favorite bar. So we had our first date there. He came with a first date gift, which, as you guys know, if you watched my previous video, you know I love fragrances. He came with a fragrance, a perfume for me on the first date, which you guys know from watching my video that I love fragrances. He knew, he told me that he would always know when I was passing by in the hallway because he could smell my perfumes. So he came to the first date with a perfume for me. And listen, you guys, our first date was just grabbing drinks at a bar. There was nothing super crazy about it. It wasn't super like unique or like creative. But when I tell you, it was the best first date that I've ever had. Like, we hit it off instantly, completely compatible. We shut the bar down. Like, they literally had to tell us, go home. It was the absolute best time. And then our third date after that was a trip to Miami because Miami is also our favorite place to travel. But like separately, that's the thing, you guys, like we enjoy doing these things as separate human beings first. And so when we met and got together and I'm like, oh, well, I like to do these things. And he's like, oh my gosh, those are my favorite things too. It just made sense. But yeah, it's just been my healthiest, like happiest, most unique experience with a man ever. First off, we don't argue really about anything at all. Like, we don't really argue, but especially not about money or life paths or like any of the big stuff, which is key. And while obviously I have my own career and I make my own money and I enjoy taking myself on solo dates and solo trips and kind of doing my own thing, he also really enjoys buying me gifts and taking me shopping and taking me on spontaneous trips as well. And so what it really boils down to is I wasn't going to meet that kind of man living where I was living in Texas, in my opinion. You know, I was meeting the men that I was dating that were around my environment. And I met a better man in Raleigh because I was in a better environment and atmosphere. I literally and physically picked myself up and placed myself in an environment where I could meet this type of man. So ladies, just keep that in mind. If you're after a certain kind of job or a certain kind of lifestyle or a certain kind of man, then be asking yourself those questions. Where do people that have these jobs or this lifestyle, where do they live? Where do these type of men hang out? And if those are places where you also want to live or those are things that you also enjoy doing, then be intentional about putting yourself in those spaces to slowly but surely be creating that life and that experience for you. And listen, I'm not saying that there's not amazing men or opportunities or whatever elsewhere and that it can't happen in some other way or environment. Sure, you know, like anything is possible, but you know, this isn't the lottery and you know, you don't want to play the odds. You want to strategize and give yourself the best chance because this is your life. Okay, moving along, and I'm just gonna very quickly touch on a few more topics because I've been chattering and I don't want this video to be too long. So next up, I want to talk about dropping dead weight. It's tough, you guys, but you have got to do it. Moving into a new season in your life often means leaving an old season and an old chapter behind. And a lot of times, unfortunately, that means leaving behind friends or boyfriends or even sometimes family members if these are people that are not supportive of you trying to elevate and better yourself in your life. The hard truth is that sometimes people like to keep other people around them that make them feel comfortable being stagnant. And if you have people like that around you, cut them out of your life now, immediately. After you finish this video, do it now, okay? Because you don't need that in your life, and the longer you wait and delay the inevitable, the harder it becomes. And once you start to do that, it also opens the door for more positive people with similar mindsets to come into your life. And having that kind of energy around you just helps to continue to elevate your life and put you into positive spaces and positive headspaces and the places that you need to be to make reaching your goals even easier. Lastly, I want to talk about speaking with intention and cost versus investment purchases while on this journey. So it's so important that you speak with intention about the things that you want to accomplish. I never speak with hesitation about myself, my abilities, or my goals. And that little voice of self-doubt in your head, yeah, she needs to become your biggest cheerleader ASAP. And you can do that in a million different ways. Like for me, I do it a lot of times through positive affirmations. When I get up each morning, I like to start my day by reading positive affirmations out loud. You can do it through journaling. You can do it through writing down your goal setting plans. And so if you have a big goal, let's say of becoming a weeknight evening news anchor, okay, that may be the big goal, but you want to write down a small goal that you can do each day or each week that ultimately is getting you closer to that big goal. So that might be one day you're practicing reading scripts, and maybe the next day you buy a work dress that you can use to anchor in. And so that brings me to the final category that I want to talk about on here, which is cost versus investment purchases while you are trying to accomplish your goals. So sometimes you do have to invest money to accomplish your goals, but sometimes the purchase can wait. So I want to talk about the differences between the two. For example, I knew I wanted to be an evening news anchor, and evening news anchors have straight teeth, okay? And so I decided I was going to start Invisalign, which if you guys have been watching my vlogs for a while, then you know that's a process that I've been dealing with for a while, and I'm still currently working through the process. It's been about a year and a half now, I think. And I still have a ways to go. My teeth are not perfect yet, but they are so much better than where they were, and I'm so much more confident because of them, and so on. But that's not what this is about. I wanted to be a news anchor. News anchors, you know, they're talking with their mouth. People are watching their mouth on TV each night. I wanted to have straight teeth because I felt like that would be an important investment for my career. I got the evening news anchor offer, I think when I was about halfway through starting my Invisalign process. And listen, I'm not saying that I would not have gotten that offer if my teeth were a little bit more crooked or something like that, but it was the mindset of me saying, I'm going to do every single thing I can so that I can, you know, look the part and feel the part and, you know, really align myself with what it meant to be a news anchor. And ultimately, that mindset, it might not have been the Invisalign on its own, but that mindset is what helped me get the job. And listen, Invisalign is pricey. I could have easily taken that money and said, you know, I'm gonna blow it on a trip to Miami, or I'm gonna go spend it on a new designer handbag or designer pair of heels. But I said, no, this is an investment in my career, and it's ultimately gonna get me to where I need to go. So I'm gonna spend the money on that and worry about the other like material things later. So that's what I did. And I got my job offer because of that mindset shift. And then once I got the job offer as an evening news anchor, then I went back and said, okay, now we can go buy the handbag, now we can take the trip to Miami, now we can buy the shoes. And at that point, those were just fun celebratory purchases. And sure, there have been other investment purchases that I made to get me to where I needed to go. I have an agent that I pay. I pay for a talent coach, a voice coach, a life coach, for wardrobe styling, hair, makeup, lots of things. But I said, this is the path that I want to take, so I'm going to do everything that I need to do to get me there, and it has paid off. So yes, sometimes you have to make investment purchases, but if it's something like a seminar or career training, or something that, you know, a networking event, something that is ultimately going to get you to where you're trying to go, then yes, a small, you know, one time or two time, a small investment, I think is worth it, because sometimes you have to pay to play. And if you're playing your cards right, then that investment you should get a return on tenfold, you know, if you're doing it right. Okay, dolls, so that's it for this very, very long video detailing how to manifest and create your dream life in 2023. Comment down below and let me know what you thought of this video, what goals you plan to conquer in 2023, and if you want me to film a follow-up video detailing how I specifically put pen to paper and writing down and accomplishing the small and the big goals that I set for myself. And just a final note, please you guys, make some goals for the New Year's, resolutions, goals, whatever you want to call them, because it is such a satisfying feeling when you get to the end of the year and you have your glass of champagne and you can say, I checked this off and that off and that off, and I did it. And now you have to set new goals, even bigger ones, because you already accomplished all the old ones. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video and listening to me rant about this topic, because I love manifestation, clearly. And let me know what you want to see in my next video. Okay, bye.